You're listening to Double Tap, your daily accessible technology show. Now, here's your hosts, Stephen Scott and Shaun Preece.
And welcome to Thursday's edition of Double Tap. Hello, Shaun Preece. How are you?
I am beautiful. Thank you, Stephen Scott. How are you?
I'm good. I was waiting for it. You didn't see it. I think
I'm
you've
not doing
upset many people today by not saying
I'm not doing it.
Night Manager.
Okay, happy Double Thursday to everyone.
Hey!
Keep battling double experience points. Great.
Again, still no idea what any of that means.
Okay,
but it
no,
sounds good. I want to get involved. I'm going to do it.
We want you, Stephen Scott, on my guild. We'll find out.
What should my username be? Do you get to choose your username?
Yeah, of course you do. I'm Shaun of the Shed on there, OVS. So what could you be? Feedback at doubletaponair.com. Let us know.
You know, my nickname used to be on the radio years ago.
Oh, God.
Well,
are we okay to say this?
Can I just say this was the on-air one? There was an off-air one as well, but we can't talk about that. Actually, I can tell you my off-air one. I can actually tell you because it was ridiculous. So what happened was there was a period of time. This is a very long, boring story, but basically,
let's kick off the show with it.
I think the boss at the radio station didn't like me very much.
Oh,
and he told me that I couldn't use my name on air.
What?
I'd moved from presentation, being on the air, like a radio jock does, to the newsroom. And he said, look, people are going to get confused because they're going to hear you 1 minute introducing Rihanna and the next minute introducing the news. So they said, we need a bit of a separation period, so don't mention your name for a while, because of course people can't pick up on voice. It would be impossible for anyone to identify me in that way. So I was like, okay, so we had this idea that I should come up with a fake name for myself. So my nickname was Lance Free because I was freelance, you see, doing the job. So I decided,
well done.
I think I'm going to applaud myself. Thank you.
So creative. Lance Free.
Lance Free was my name. So I actually did go on air and say, it's 4:00, I'm Lance Free. And how we howled in the newsroom about that. But yeah, my on-air nickname was actually Muffin Man.
Okay, is that because of your love for the muffin?
Yes, I have enjoyed a muffin or two. Chocolate chip, obviously, although I have evolved. Strawberry jam, white chocolate chips.
That's
I've
jelly
evolved.
for our
Jello.
listeners who are not in. Oh, Jello as well. Okay,
yeah.
all right, sorry. Mm-hmm. What a beautiful story, Stephen Scott. Thank you so much for sharing it with us.
Don't you just love how when this show starts, you've got absolutely no idea what's coming? Is that what's brilliant about it? It's just you have no idea, right?
Not just the listeners, us as well. Yes, no idea where this is going.
Certainly you, not you, I'll tell you that. And yeah, me as well. Anyway, lots to talk about today. You have been talking to an organisation called HearSee Mobility to learn about a smart cane with a difference.
Yeah, well, more than that, actually. That's part of it, but also just the ability to get around indoors. It's the problem that we haven't really cracked yet, and a few different technologies have been used in different ways to try and crack the problem, but maybe this is the one that does it.
Okay, well, we shall see. But first, we're going to kick off with some of your comments. We've been hearing a lot about Neuralink in the past while. A lot of comment coming through on that. And a good friend of the show, Tim Dixon, he's back with some comment on this to kick us off.
Hey, Stephen. Hey, Shaun. Hey, Double Tappers. Tim here. I've just been listening to Thursday's episode about our dear friend Elon Musk. Mad? Yeah, definitely. And I have some feedback, and now you've got this WhatsApp, you're getting in video form.
Hey.
Hopefully this comes through okay for use. So first things, the Neuralink and the discussion about how that was presented. I'm completely with Shaun here and other listeners that have said the issue is the narrative. And I do think, and I respectfully disagree here, Stephen, about internal ableism. I think there is some internal ableism that we go through that we have to address to become more at ease with ourselves. And yes, of course, people want the sight back. And I think that's fine. People, we grieve what we've lost, but at the same time, there's a certain level of acceptance we need, and to acknowledge that we can do things that we probably never thought we could do prior to losing our sight. If somebody said, hey, if can you use a phone, we all know there's thousands of people out there that think that blind people can't use phones, and that's probably a vast underestimation. And I think it's about messaging. I think there's a responsibility for companies that work with blind and low vision people to ensure that their messaging is supporting the well-being of the full community. I also agree that there are different tracks within the community, like blind from birth, and as you've said, that can mean that they've been given tools, and that doesn't mean that their life is any easier than somebody who's losing sight later in life, like myself. But their journey is different. When you're losing sight, there's a lot of grieving and a lot of mental gymnastics, I think is the term that you used previously, Stephen, which I completely agree with, that we have to go through to understand ourselves, to accept what's going on. It's not just the logical side, it's the emotional side, and it's something that I'm actually struggling with quite a lot myself right now. And logically, I know it'll be fine. In some respects, and I've heard you say this, Shaun, that since you've lost more of your useful vision, that you're more content. And that doesn't mean that I want to go and poke my eyes out. But there are times when I wonder, do you know what? Would it be better for me to have less sight and be forced to adjust rather than this continuous cycle of adjusting as my sight deteriorates? I think there's a lot of nuance and debate around that. So on to the more fun topic, so to speak, of Elon Musk. I think it's great to see things going forward, and Elon has undoubtedly done some great things with his chopsticks and rockets, or the engineers behind him. But what it comes down to me is, as a human being, can we overlook some of the things that he does and he says that, frankly, are not for all to the benefit of everyone? It's very noble to want to get us to Mars and to revolutionise transport.
Yeah, I think your video may have cut off there, Tim, but thank you for the message, and I'm glad you sent that on WhatsApp video, actually, which is nice and easy to do in the app, which is cool. Look, I mean, there's lots to pick up on here. Do you want to respond to any of those comments? Because they were kind of aimed to you to some degree about Tim's experience of losing vision.
Well, firstly, thanks for sharing that with you, Tim, because sometimes it's not easy to open up like that. You've got to be honest with yourself and then share it with others. It's difficult, right? But I can't disagree with anything you said, and I thought you put it really, really well, actually. Really better than I could. Let's put it that way. When it comes to losing your sight and me being content now with virtually no sight, just a little bit of light perception, than I was before, I can definitely put my hands up and say I feel okay with it, and I feel less anxious than I did when I had more sight. But I think that's more down to me and always pushing against it, pushing against that sight loss. So maybe that doesn't have to be the case, that you're. It's not until you lose the sight that you feel content. Maybe there is a way around that with some sort of counselling or just acceptance. Maybe, again, as we keep coming back to in this discussion, it's very individual, right? It's not a one that fits all on this. So, I just want to say thank you for sharing, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's a tough topic to bring up, but it's an important one. because it's part of our experiences, and it is those mental gymnastics, it is those challenges. And I think, if I'm honest, I'm a little bit all over the place on this as well sometimes, because I have really good days and then I have really bad days. And, the other day where I almost, it sounds so ridiculous, but I'd poured milk into the tea. I was making my wife a cup of tea, and I'd poured the milk in. And my wife had said to me the day before, that tea you made the other day, she said, it hardly any milk in it. And I'm like, all right. And she likes lots of milk. She wants loads of milk. I like baby tea. I love lots of milk as well. So, I'm like, I remember being able to see the milk in the cup. Like, on a white mug, obviously, but I could.
Yeah, no, I know.
Do you know what I mean? I remember being able to see the milk in the cup, and now not even seeing that. And I know it sounds ridiculous. It's just a small thing. But it hit me that day. It really hit me that day. Put me in a right downer, because I thought, that really annoys me. That's another thing I need to now consider a way of doing. A liquid level indicator is great for making the tea itself, but, how do you know how much milk you've put in? Now I've got
one
a finger.
slop.
Well, I was going to say one finger right into the, the milk. It's ridiculous. But
I just do it by slopping it in. That's one slop. But no, you're right. And you know what? It's important for us to say that it is those things, those stupid things that do hit you now and again. Mm-hmm. I've just watched a video about the 1980s video game Ghostbusters, and it was just so nostalgic. And for a split second, I really wish I could see this screen again, because I've still got it in my head, but I want to see it. And for that split second, it's like, oh no, that's kind of really sad. But it doesn't stay, right? But I think it's important to say that we all experience those sort of things. And it doesn't have to be, I can't see a rainbow or the stars or whatever. It could be something just silly, right?
Well, it's a bit like when you're attempting to lose weight, not something I'm doing at the moment, but I should be, but I'm not. But trainers will often talk about recovery time. So as you get healthier, you can go for a walk, and then the time it takes you to basically be a sweating wreck on the sofa, when you come back, reduces to from 5 minutes to 3 minutes to a minute, and suddenly I feel okay. And I think it's kind of similar mentally with vision, because there is a period where you do feel that recovery time, that moment will stick with you a lot longer. And it gets all personality as well. I have a bit of a personality that does that. Things can annoy me and they stick with me. And I can't seem to shake it away. Something else has to happen. And then I feel better. It's like, I've got something else to get annoyed about now. I was annoyed about this, now I'm annoyed about this. So that's the only way I can kind of move on.
It's true, though.
But that recovery time does slow, or increase, I should say. That's the recovery time changes, because you suddenly start to feel, it'll annoy you for a while, but then it kind of calms down, it relaxes.
You can let go. Yeah. Wow, we've got deep all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Sorry, carry on.
No apologies at all. Goodness me, this is partly, I think, a lot of the reason why people tune into Double Tap. Of course we talk about tech occasionally, but this is a show where the two of us are talking about our lives, and these are our lives. I have really good days, and then I have really blooming awful days, and I don't mind talking about them, to be honest. And if it helps you with talking about them, then that's all for the better. Listen, let's talk to Pete. He's got some questions for us.
Hi all. I listened to your recent episode with contributions from Tom Dixon, I think, who had attended a UK tech show. He featured the WeWalk 2 cane, which I have seen briefly with Sight and Sound, and also the mini guide and cane clamp. This leaves me with quite a dilemma. Since seeing the WeWalk, which impressed in terms of how it felt in the hand but left some questions over my use case, against using a mini guide, which is nearly half the price, I am hoping the wisdom of the Double Tap community can come to my rescue. Based on my knowledge, here are my thoughts. Mini guide is small and does not need to be used with a cane. When it is used with a cane, though, how easy is it to detect its feedback above that which comes through the cane anyway? I don't know if the mini guide can be used in our wonderful UK weather, whereas WeWalk claim you can use the cane in all weathers. Of late, I have heard the detection for the WeWalk as head level. I do want this, but bigger concern is what is in front of me at waist height and above. Does WeWalk help here to detect, for example, open car doors or crossbeams on scaffolding? The mini guide can be, I believe, used on any cane. Therefore, I could keep my current no-jab cane or purchase an all-terrain cane or its new Urban Explorer stablemate. WeWalk leaves me with the choice of a basic standard cane. I'd really appreciate views here, as while I have put aside the funds to cover this, I don't want to make the wrong decision. As an aside, my current obstacle detection choice is actually my iPhone 12 Pro with Super LiDAR. Feel free to take as an app recommendation. Super LiDAR comes from the same people who created SuperSense. It's pretty basic, but sometimes that's what you need for obstacle detection. You can configure whether the tone used to indicate proximity to obstacles rises or falls as you near them, and whether it's a constant tone or beeps. My personal choice is for the tone to fall as I near the obstacle and have a bleeping tone rather than constant. It does detect doors and windows and also people with and without a mask, showing its pandemic heritage. I'm not sure it's being updated, but it has got me out of some challenging situations. Downsides are you need a Pro Series iPhone. It also does not stop the phone from locking with inactivity, so it can leave you having to stop to reopen your phone or just tap the screen when you hear the screen dimmed, which is a nuisance. Other than that, it's great, and I find it more accurate than Sonic-based devices. For context, my comparable devices are the Sunu Band and the Ray device from HealthTech. The Ray does do what it says, but I find the range is more limited, the detection a little unresponsive, and it has a constant pulse even when there is no object detected. I assume to ensure the user knows it's still active. This is, however, distracting, as it muddles the feedback until you get much closer than you might want. Apologies for the long message, especially to Laura. Feel free to cut down if needed. Being honest, it's probably too long because I have just bought a nice mechanical clacky keyboard, and I am loving the extra key travel and feedback, and the application key. Thanks again for a great show, and look forward to more great content. Kind regards, Pete.
Thank you, Pete. Appreciate that.
That is so interesting. Super LiDAR. Do you remember that app at all, Stephen?
I remember SuperSense, yeah. I remember it well.
I remember, yeah, of course. And then when the LiDAR was released with the Pros, it was, I was looking for apps that could actually use that, and that was the first one that someone told me about. But I'm really surprised we haven't seen more of these sort of apps utilizing the LiDAR. You know, the ability to detect distance and 3D mapping. We haven't really seen it used that much, right?
No. I mean, I think even about Good Maps. I mean, Good Maps use LiDAR, but they use their own technology. And it's not actually the technology in the phone that does it. It's essentially visual mapping. So, you know, you don't even need to have... I mean, I suppose maybe it's about... Maybe companies are concerned that if they bring it out, then it kind of forces blind people to have the LiDAR feature. I know I read a lot about blind people who are buying Pro Max devices. But I think the people who are buying that, let's be honest about it, are probably a small minority of our minority who are actually out there buying.
Do you think?
They're not. I mean, it's funny because you tend to get lost in social media sometimes. You can kind of think to yourself, well, everyone's buying this because everyone's talking about this. Yeah, those are the people who can afford it, let's be honest. And that's not everybody.
It's very true. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I mean, aside from the LiDAR, there's the battery life. I know a lot of people like to go for the bigger phones. You get a bigger battery. So there's that aspect as well. And of course, we've talked about LiDAR and, live detection or live recognition. I can't remember what it's called now. In the rotor in iOS 18, detecting doors and furniture and things. It's very good. But just something as simple as, and I know exactly what Pete's talking about here. When I think of the WeWalk, and I'm trying to think, well, how would that affect me? How would I use that? And the only thing I'm worried about when I want sort of prior warning is the cars on the sidewalk, on the pavement. Would it detect those, or are we talking more about, head height branches and things like that, obstacles? So, I honestly don't know. I think the mini guide, I've heard so many good things about people using that, but I haven't heard about people using it clamped onto the cane. Other than, I believe it's audible as well, so you probably wouldn't hear or be able to feel the vibrations from the mini guide. But is it plug some headphones into it? You could hear the beeps.
I think we need to get hands on with this mini guide, because honestly, this sounds like a great little device, and I keep hearing about it. And in the grand scheme, it's not the most expensive device out there. So yeah, we should give it a try. But I think it is all weather. I think it can handle the rain. I mean, goodness me, it was developed, I think, here in the UK. So, goodness me, I'd hope it would be able to handle the rain. I think that's right anyway. But, I mean, would you choose one over the other? It's a difficult one because it depends on what you want. I think you're right, though, Pete, because I must admit, I'm torn as well. I like the idea of having the choice of cane I want.
Yeah.
And then if I can add something to that makes it smart, that's great. But the idea of having something that's kind of designed for a specific cane, like in the WeWalk case, it's Ambutech only, then that restricts me from what I can buy. And it maybe would put me off. But again, it depends on the functionality of the device. Until it's actually released and people are trying it and testing it, we will be testing it here. We are going to be getting our hands on with one. Then we can see where we go from there. But yeah, we shall wait and see. But we'll definitely feedback on all of that when we get the information. I want to bring in another message. This is from WhatsApp. And this is from, and I hope I've got this right, Hailey Mary. I think that's right.
Hello, this is Hailey Mary from England. And I was just listening to your most recent episode, and I couldn't help but notice that you mentioned in a disturbingly offhand fashion the fact that you interviewed Gordon Brown. And
Yes.
I need to know everything. I need to know every single detail. How, what, when, where, why. I need to know everything.
Okay.
I need to know literally everything. How on earth did you manage to do that? Who were you working for? What was the context here? What did you talk about? I did actually try to find this on YouTube. I was not able to do so. Yeah, so if you could also provide a clip of this somewhere, that would be incredible. I would very much like to listen to that. And this does also segue rather neatly into my next question, which isn't so much aimed at you, Stephen or Shaun, although if you do have any experience with this, I would like to hear your perspective as well, but more to the community at large, which is if you've done volunteering for political parties, mainly in the UK, but around the world too. It would be interesting to hear your experiences as well. How has that worked for you in practice? And what have you been able to do? I know the main sort of forms of volunteering people do is door knocking, and pushing leaflets through letterboxes, all that kind of thing. And I was kind of wondering how accessible that is. I guess it would be fairly accessible if you're paired up with other people, because then you're not having to worry about just the sort of regular problems with navigating unknown areas, but also you don't know who you're going to come across, and people often don't tend to, well, some people don't necessarily appreciate being canvassed by political parties. So if you don't want to run into someone unfriendly without being able to defend yourself necessarily. So be interested to know your experiences with that, and also if there are any other forms of volunteering you can do, and just generally how you've found that. Also sort of attitudes you've come across, or if you've had any issues with discrimination, that sort of thing. Anyway, thank you very much. I love the show.
Hailey Mary, thank you very much.
Wow. Okay. So, Stephen Scott, you interviewed Gordon Brown.
I did.
How and why?
How on earth did that happen?
How did you
How
do
did
that?
I get anyone near a
And where's-
politician of stature?
And where's the proof?
Yeah, there you go. Well, here's the thing. YouTube wasn't invented when I interviewed Gordon Brown. Actually, that was kind of depressing when I had to think back about that. So I'm afraid there's no audio clips. There's nothing, because in those days it was all recorded on mini disc back in
Twice.
the day. Literally, yeah. Literally twice. First time with no disc in it. And,
Yeah, we should say this wasn't a double tap thing.
This wasn't to do with double tap. No.
This was your radio days, right?
Back in my
Commercial
radio days, I worked for a local radio station that covered the north of Scotland, and I was sent out on a job to interview the then Chancellor of the Exchequer, Gordon Brown, before he became Prime Minister a couple of years later. And we talked about many, many things. It was a local issue that we were talking about. It wasn't necessarily about his role as Chancellor, but we did talk for 10 minutes and then a further 10 minutes because I had to do the interview again.
Yes.
It was on a beach. It was a weird thing. It was actually on a beach. both of us standing there with suits
Are you
and
sure
ties
this wasn't
on.
a dream?
No, this was real. It's just it's so bizarre. We're both of us standing there. He was there doing something. We were next to the beach. People are parading around. It was a gorgeous day, beautiful day. Which made people think if it's Scotland, it must be a dream. But it was a nice day. And we were on the beach, and I remember afterwards buying an ice cream on the way back to work and covering myself in it on the way back in the taxi.
Beautiful. And then you turned into a horse and flew away. Yeah, okay.
That's right, yeah, exactly.
I think I'm going to send out Double Tappers on a mission here. If anyone can find that clip.
If you can find that, then that basically means you're able to, I don't know, pull apart tapes from years ago. It's funny actually when I think back the things I've done in my career, and it's not archived anywhere. But of course nowadays everything is archived.
Yeah,
people are downloading the show. Some people keep the shows. I've done it myself. You keep shows.
That's scary.
Yeah, people do that though, and it's weird, right? You think that'll live on forever, whereas the stuff I did in my early part of my career is gone. If it wasn't on cassette tape.
Oh,
did you gone. It went out into it literally was on the air. It was literally only on the air.
No one pressed play and record at the same time to. That's a shame.
There was something funny. I mean, nowadays we do the show. We're on YouTube and we're in this sort of public forum in this way. And I remember starting out. The most you got was a phone call from a listener. They had no idea who you were at all. Nobody knew what you looked like.
Some things never change. No one knows who I am either. It's fine.
You've been noticed. Don't go there. You've been noticed. I know about your stories, Preece.
Oh, dear. Mm-hmm. And, okay, let's quickly move on to political volunteering.
Not something I can say anything about, to be honest. I've nothing to add on that. I'll throw that out to you guys because I don't have any experience of that. Politics and I think that's something that should be left purely alone, if I'm honest.
What about volunteering in general? I've got to say, I think volunteering is a fantastic idea. It can be really helpful, not just for looking for employment, but also for your self-confidence and whatever else. I think it's a fantastic idea. But when it comes to discrimination and the problems that you may find coming along with that, it's no different to any other sector, to be honest. Any problems you'll come across with, job interviews or whatever else it may be, you'll find in volunteering in certain organizations as well. But volunteering is a great idea. It's something I think everyone should work up to because it just gives you so much back. Yeah,
I think it's a great thing to do anyway for anything. I mean, it's not something I've ever really done much in my life. I've been working my whole life, but I think it's a great thing for people to do. I know when I worked at the RNIB, loads of people volunteered with us. I used to work every day with volunteers on the reading show I did. We did the newspaper show in the morning on the radio. And, everybody who was on that show was a volunteer. And, they loved it. And, there's this idea that, people would say, well, why are they not paid? Well, actually, if you paid them, they wouldn't want to do it. That was the whole point. They wanted to volunteer. They wanted to give something. That was the whole point. So,
I don't know about that. Let's not go mad.
I mean, they had to spend 3 hours with me in a studio with air conditioning cranked down as low as it could possibly go. Then maybe that wasn't as much fun as I thought it was. But and of course, me in the morning. I mean, I had that to the mix. Goodness me, yes. Why anybody came back was beyond me. But no, it's a really meaningful thing to people. But I think for a lot of blind people, like you say, it's also about structure. I think it gives you a structure in life. If you've not worked at all, getting structure is really important, especially if you're aiming to get back into the workplace, and because it can be a complete knock. When you go into a workplace and suddenly you've got this routine that you have to follow. You think, but I want to go to bed in the middle of the afternoon. Although in saying that, I think today's generations seem to be going that way anyway, so it doesn't make any difference. All the kids want to go to bed at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I can't come in because my Starbucks was cold. Or whatever nonsense.
But the thing is, it's almost it's almost a joke, isn't it? That people who are employed will look at the unemployed and say, "Oh God, I wish I could sit at home all day," and it must be great. But then for people who haven't got a job, it's not great. It's not a holiday. It's not a walk in the park. Not having a reason to get out of bed in the morning is soul destroying. And for us who've been long-term unemployed, just having a purpose, having a reason that you feel some worth, volunteering can be definitely worth it. And it can lead to other things as well. So, I would say definitely do that. I'd be really interested to hear our listeners' experience of volunteering, good or bad.
Yeah. Keep in touch with us in all the usual ways. Here's how you can do it.
Get in touch with Double Tap. Email feedback@doubletaponair.com. Leave us a voicemail at 1-877-803-4567. And now you can send an audio or video message to us on WhatsApp. That number is 1-613-481-0144.
Technology is just proves to be so useful for, mobility and navigation, getting us to the building. But when it comes to actually navigating inside a building you haven't been to before, or even when you have actually, technology still hasn't really found the way for us. So you over at HearSee, have you cracked this problem for us?
We've made a system that we can actually get an individual to an exact location, no matter where at in the building, within inches.
Wow. Okay. Inches. Now that's impressive because, of course, the problem we have currently with indoor navigation is that you can't rely on an internet connection. You can't rely on a GPS signal. Many of the time I've been using technology, and as soon as I step through the door into a building, everything just gets cut off. So how have you gone about this problem?
Well, we do. We map a building using our web app. So we download a map into our web app. And then once we have that map in our system, we can place nodes throughout that environment. And then once we have that all done, we can go and put physical RFID tags throughout the building that correspond with the nodes. And once they're installed, you as soon as you walk through the door, if you have the HearSee app, it'll download or it'll pull that map from the database, and you'll have all the destinations for that building on your phone. And once you have that, you just go through it, select the destination, and navigate to it.
Wow. Okay. So this is almost a two-prong form of attack here. So you've got the actual, is it a 3D sort of environment map of the building, and also you're using hardware as well?
Yeah. So it's actually three. So we have a web app that we put all of the information in. We have a mobile app that communicates between the database, the web app, and we have a cane that actually reads the tags. So you have hardware, which is the cane, a mobile app, and a web app.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so tell me more about the cane. How does that work? How does that interact with the RF? Sorry, did you say tags? RF? Yeah.
Yeah. So we have an RFID reader in the cane, and as you scan a tag with the cane, it pulls that information to a module, then sends that through Bluetooth to the user into the app.
Okay, and where are these RFID tags then? Are they embedded in, are they simply attached to, door frames or on the floor or just on a wall?
Anything that you would deem as a destination or point of interest, or even waypoints, like if you have a long hallway, we'll have waypoint tags along that hallway just to let the user know that they're still on point. But yeah, they just stick to the wall. The kind of the beauty of it is that we've wanted to make this thing what it is we want it to be, once it's installed, you can paint over the top of it, hide it behind wallpaper. Anyway, just make it disappear in the environment.
Of course.
Yeah.
The reason I asked where it was located, because my experience of, RFID readers is that you have to be fairly close to them. So I'm thinking, as I'm moving around, with my stick, would I have to be, how close would I have to be to an RFID emitter?
We've gotten a lot of success with being around 15 feet away from a tag to be able to read it and understand where you need to be. We've also got it up to 30 feet with different types of tags.
And how about the cane itself then? Because some people are going to be slightly, concerned about having to have a special cane for this. Is this possible to add to an existing cane, or maybe, a special tip for a cane?
Well, so when we started this, we met with several members of the blind community on the idea of this type of indoor navigation. And as we went through that process, we did our own proof of concept. And then once we got through that proof of concept, we went to the blind community and asked them what they thought. Two of the three were intrigued. The other one said, "Don't waste your time." So scientific, if 2 out of 3, we jumped for it. We went for it. We went and did an external proof of concept. So we hired a company to do the external proof of concept. They took it and made a cane, made it do what we wanted it to do. We brought it back and they hated it. Only because it was big and bulky and the weight and balance wasn't right. So we were told that everything needed to fit inside the cane and you can't mess with the weight and balance, which was kind of difficult because you really can't. If you're adding something to a cane, or to anything, you're going to add weight. But the fit and feel and the balance we got. But as we went through and did this, we made 10 different types of handles, and the community picked the handle that we're using now. Was like 98% chose the handle that we're using now, but it adapts to an Ambutech, a Chris Park, and a D cane. So
okay, just to clarify then, so you can, all the technology is in a handle that you can attach to your current cane, or not?
Well, no, you're still going to have to use the cane that we have, because we have to. But what we're working on now is a Gen 2 cane that has all of the tech in the handle, and then we would just provide you with a handle that screws onto, or it would screw onto a cane.
I'm with you. Okay, so
you would
that's
still
the plan.
have to buy it. You'd have to buy the type of cane that you would want from us, and then we would outfit it to make it work with our system. But the big thing with it is we don't want to be that like make the community buy and use our cane all the time, right? This is more of a, when you're going to a place that you've never been before, or somewhere where you're not familiar, not comfortable with, that's where we use this system. It's not a every time. It's when you're going to a new place, this is where the system works.
Yeah, I totally understand that. As I mentioned previous, if you go to somewhere you're not familiar with, it can be really daunting until, a few visits and you get the handle on it. And it's not so bad then. I get that. So, of course, with all this indoor technology, we've seen a few companies take different, plans of attack on using technology to try and solve this problem. But the main thing is getting the places themselves involved. I mean, let's go back to the mapping of a building. How is that done?
So, let's take we have a client right now. They're an art school here in our town that they've bought it. They have the system. I walk through and show them how they upload a floor plan of their building and show them how to place the nodes, how to place the tags, all of that, and get it to a point where they're ready to get it tested. So the web app is the one portion of it where like a facility manager or an owner of a building would put in the information that they want people to know about their environment. Now, once they have that in place, we are going to hire members of the blind community come in and test that space to make sure that it works. One thing that I've noticed, and we've talked about with a lot of people, is the sighted community explains things in a very visual way, and will skip over crucial details that a blind person would want to know. Like we explain things that the blind community, they don't care about.
Yes.
So as they go through and as a building gets, we call it certified, but as one of our blind people come in and certify a building, they can come in and say, what is this? Explain it in a way that's like this. Like right now we're working on kind of an SOP for a facility manager or an owner when they start giving descriptions on things, what's important for a destination. So,
and how is that feedback fed back to the user? You mentioned that if I enter a building, I don't have to do anything, that is automatically, the map for that building is automatically brought up.
Yep.
And then I need to go on and select my destination of a list of destination inside that building.
So if you know you're going to a doctor's office, for example, and it's on the 3rd floor on the total other side of the building where you entered, you just say navigate to this doctor's office, or you pull through and find it in the list of destinations, and then you just hit start. It's almost like a indoor GPS. It's turn by turn directions. We have different types like degrees or simple directions, but
yeah. And is that just played back through the screen reader on the phone, or is the app self-voicing, or is there something in the cane itself like a tactile option?
So it goes through Bluetooth. So if you can have it on the speaker on your phone, or you can have an earbud. But we also are going to do, as we've shown this to the community, we've gotten a lot of feedback of like, it would be nice if you had a haptic, the next prompt in a haptic feedback. So we're adding that in now. So the whole point is just leave your phone in your pocket, and you can navigate everything through the app with the cane. So there's a button on the cane you can go through and just give instructions through the app.
I see.
Leave your phone in your pocket.
Yeah, that's the goal for everything. Obviously, with wearables taking off, people, it sounds strange to say, but it just seems like a hassle to take the phone out of your pocket and in some cases hold it out in front of you. Phone in pocket is always the best way to go. So yeah, it's very interesting. You mentioned the community there. So you're obviously taking a lot of your lead from blind users. How's the feedback been?
Yeah, it's been great. My approach with this, and my approach with business in general, is you work with the people that you're going to serve, right? So my approach is the community is the one that gives the scope, right? They tell us what they want, and it's my job to go and facilitate that. once we get something done, we bring it back to them and say, here's what we have. What do you think? And as I mean, this is 5 years in the making, and there's been total scraps. Like, we've scrapped things that we've spent a ton of time on, and we've tweaked a lot of things that we've spent a lot of time on, just because of what the community said. So really the community is at the front. My job is just to facilitate what they want when it comes to how we need to make this work.
Of course. So you mentioned 5 years. So how close are we to what's the rollout of this? I mean, how many companies have actually picked up this service, and is it available in only certain countries?
Right now, it's just we're trying to stay close. We're in southern Utah, so we've got, like I said, we've got a art school that they have 3 students right now that have either blindness or low vision, and their whole thing is they want to be able to make everyone feel valued and collaborate together. And as they've been putting this in their school, it's been nice because it's been a lot of talking points with the blind or the sighted students and the blind students that they have. So right now it's just in Utah, but just like the internet, makes the world a very small place.
Yes.
Once we get everything to a point, we're really close to getting the Gen 2 done. So we're hoping by the first quarter of next year we'll have the Gen 2 cane done. The web app is virtually done now, and the app is pretty close to, it's done too. We're just waiting on the hardware based on the feedback that we've gotten from the community.
Got you. And what do you see the cost being to firstly the end user for the cane for first thing, and is there a subscription model for the app?
No, so there's not a subscription for the app, and my take on this, and the reason why we went nonprofit, which I hate nonprofits. But our whole point with this was just to make it to where it's little to no cost to the end user. So let's say a university, let's say, buys a system, and let's say that they have 7 students. Well, we would, part of that cost of it, we would say, okay, you have 7. We'll round it up to 10. We'll give you 20 canes as part of this deal. You can keep 10 canes for yourself. You can donate 10 canes to, local blind members of your community. You can keep all 20, or like anyway, you can do whatever you want to with it.
Yeah.
So we want it to be like no cost to a blind person. We want to make it very easy. But if they do want to buy one, we want to keep the cost around $300 cane.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
very good. Very good. Well, it sounds like, you've got the feedback from the community. You feel like you've got the technology covered there. I think where you've really got to push is try and get the businesses to implement the system as part of their building. That's the tricky part, right?
Well, yeah, and I think it's honestly, we did CES last year, and it was nice to be able to show people how it works. But I honestly think that blindness is a taboo topic for the sighted community.
Yes.
They don't really want to talk about it. They just, it's like, oh, I feel bad for you. But I don't want to really talk about it because losing your sight is a scary thing.
Yeah.
It's totally scary. And getting people to understand, like, okay, we understand it's scary, right? But go into, and like the next time, and I tell this to sighted people all the time, next time you go into a building, look for Braille. Is there Braille in a building? And 9 times out of 10, there's not. Like hospitals and hospitality do a really good job of having Braille, but most other places don't have Braille, right?
No.
And then they'll go, oh, okay. Then we'll have the conversation next, and it's like, in the day and age that we're in now, it's 10% of the blind community read Braille. So what do we do with the other 90%? Right? And once you do find a Braille sign, that only tells you where you're at. It doesn't give you any direction. Do I go left? Do I go right?
Yes.
And it might tell you something that's kind of a useless point, right?
Yeah.
Like
you are here.
Janitor's closet or
Yes.
whatever. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
So I think the big thing is, as we've gotten people to understand it, that the communities really wanted the education. So schools, universities, museums, like areas that they can go to and get just education type stuff, municipalities, and then like sports arenas.
Oh yeah.
One of the people that helped us from the very beginning, great guy, but he wants the Dallas Cowboys stadium mapped so he can go to a Cowboys game, which is funny because I always tell him, like, why would you want to go to a Cowboys game?
Oh,
like,
okay.
Nobody likes the Cowboys.
Have you approached them yet? Have they said yes or no?
It's funny. It's been a couple. I think it might have been 2 years ago. Jerry Jones dressed up as a blind ref for Halloween.
Okay.
And it was kind of funny because there was a huge uproar within the blind community about how insensitive that was. And then you got a lot of people that are just, jumped on that bandwagon. And so we reached out to him and just said, hey, look, here's a good way of you
making amends.
Throwing out an olive branch, but no, we didn't.
And he did take you up on it. Well, maybe sometime soon. So
we were too early. It wouldn't have worked.
So for anyone who's interested in this, including businesses, I hope, how can we get more information?
You can go to HearSeeMobility.org. We've got a lot of information on our website. Like I said, we're a 501c3, so we're, we have to post everything we're doing and all that. When you're on the website, like all of our projects, all the donations, 100% of the profit or 100% of the donation goes to a project. So you pick a project, make a donation, and 100% of that money goes to that project.
Cool.
So,
and that's HearSee.org. That's HearSee.org.
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, James, I wish you luck with that, and thank you for coming on Double Tap today.
Thank you.
Well, there you go. An interesting project. A local project to some degree at the moment. I've seen it all over my LinkedIn feed, which is why I thought it'd be interesting we spoke to the guy and the company, in fact. This is clearly something that is going to grow over time. The question is, though, will this work if it requires these stickers or these RFID labels or tags to be available everywhere. This is always a challenge, isn't it, when you're trying to implement something like this? It does take the businesses to get involved. First, this can't be just something done on your own phone.
Well, this goes even further. As I mentioned, we've seen technologies trying to tackle indoor navigation before with Bluetooth beacons, right? And even that was talking to your phone. With this approach, we're looking at not only the RFIDs, but also the need for a special cane. So, yeah, I mean, until someone goes hands-on with this and see how practical it actually is and how well it works, it is going to be a difficult sell, I think. But still, another way to indoor navigation still is an important thing we need to solve.
Yeah, I hear the same conversation around NaviLens as well. People saying that this is great. But again, it takes adoption by the businesses to implement that and keep the data up to date. There's a lot of challenge here. Listen, very interesting conversation. That is it for today. We're back tomorrow with more of your feedback, so tune in for that. Of course, you can get in touch in all the usual ways. Shaun, thank you as always. We'll catch you tomorrow.
Thank you. Bye-bye.